you can join me as I interview and introduce my guest to you. I'll be further introducing my guest here in just a moment. But you have reached us on kmmu.org, Main Street Media. You can find us on our website, kmmu.org or .com. You can also reach us on our Rumble channel, our Twitter channel, as well as YouTube channel. And I think there may be a few other things floating out around, but I don't remember off the top of my head, I must admit. Also, a little later, we will be able to take calls, and the call in line, I'll give it out now, is 385 899 2134. That's 385 899 2134. But I also want to give out, also, today is, if you're watching this live, it's roughly 4:06 p.m. and it happens to be June 18th, 2024. It is 1 week away from the end of the primaries. I'd like to say it's 1 week away from the primaries, but it's 1 week away. So let me give out my show mantra and my show prayer, as it were. Now, as I've said before, folks, I'm a hypocrite, I'm a heathen, but this is when it comes to doing my show, this is what I keep in mind. Let's start with my show prayer. No need to bow your head, close your eyes, just the prayer of my heart. I hope my show is a gift back to my forefathers, the founding fathers, that may it be an acceptable token to our Father above. Then the show mantra: where there is liberty, there is the Spirit of Christ. Where the Spirit of Christ is, there will be liberty. And the greater the Spirit of Christ, the greater liberty will be. That's taken throughout places throughout Scripture, like 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17, if I remember correctly, as well as Article 7 of the Constitution. So right now, joining me, I have Chad Saunders. Chad Saunders and I have become new friends, and he's someone that I would like to call a friend, and maybe after today's show he will no longer want that to be the case.
No, I'm a happy warrior. I like everybody. I really do. I mean, I do. I try to live by Andrew Breitbart's mantra of being a happy warrior. So John, no, even if you don't like what I say, we're pals.
Okay.
We've been doing a lot together the last 4 or 5 weeks. A lot.
We have. So let me share with you his little title as he's got, or his little mantra underneath, or I don't know what it is, explanation of who he is on his Twitter handle. It says, Chad Saunders says, unabashed freedom speech advocate. Like Mitch in City Slickers, I sell air. He does work for some local radio stations. I'll leave that out of it just in case he catches heat. He can be free to mention them. But he's also a member of the Utah GOP State Central Committee and conservative I vote. So, Chad, thanks for joining me. We're going to freeform this a little bit. Also, my illustrious call screener / producer wants to know, do you have a website?
I'm not that cool. I'm just a guy. If anybody would like to catch up with me, I'm at ChadGS13 on X. I'm Chad Grady Saunders on Facebook. And that's pretty much me. I'm not anybody special. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who likes to open his mouth probably way too much.
I will say this, just like me, no one's ever said that Talk with John was too quiet. And I don't know that anybody's ever accused Chad of that same thing either. But so let's get into it. Chad is from the State Central Committee. I wanted to bring him on. We want to talk about, and I'm going to make some notes, some talking points. One of the things I want to talk about with him and others is our what we had happen at the state convention. That was a tough one. Then also, I want to go over, who came out of. I want to talk about who we have the possibility to vote for. Chad has been given permission that he can talk about some of the people that he may be supporting. But we want to also say kind of why we think the Republican. I'm going to ask him why he thinks the Republican Party is the place to be at, as opposed to the Democrat Party. Well, come on, is there any? I mean, plain and simple, I can't see why anyone votes for Democrat. Well, I can, but I don't have positive things to say along those lines. But I can go, okay, I can see why you would vote Libertarian. I can see why you would vote for like the Constitution Party or something along those lines. I can see why someone would do it. But frankly, in my opinion, the party to be part of is the Republican Party right now. Hopefully, we can have some big victories in the Republican Party. Now, in the state of Utah, bottom line is if you've got an R by your name, pretty much you're going to be selected for the statewide position. Recently, well, a couple years ago, about 4 years ago, we did have a Democrat in Congressional District 4, I believe it is, that was Burgess Owens now sits in. But pretty much most of the time, it's the Republican Party that holds those positions. And so where do you want to start?
You drive the bus. I'll go over wherever you take me, John.
Okay, then I'm going to say I love asking someone this question on the State Central Committee. I've asked this question of Kim Coleman. I want to get her on the record, but I was really disappointed on how the state convention ended from the fact of its time frame. I was super pleased with my fellow delegates. We had a great turnout. We had a really high percentage turnout this year. I've been a Utah County delegate many years. About 3 times I think I've been Utah County delegate. Last year and this 2 years ago, I was selected by my precinct to be a state delegate. This year, I was selected to be a state delegate as well. And for the off-year election convention, we went until like about 4 o'clock. This year, actually, I think this is my 3rd year being in the state convention. And this year, so back in 2022, no, it was my second term, sorry.
The last few years, we've ended at around 4 o'clock. This year, we ended 4 minutes to midnight. Yeah, it was longer. And yeah, I don't think anybody was thrilled with what took place. I will say I respect the fact that we had very little attrition over the day and people stayed until the very end. A lot of the issues that we had, I don't think we think about this a lot, and we need to. Every couple of years, we transition to a new chairman, a new, executive team, and there's a lot of change, and there's a lot, even people that have experience, maybe they've been a past vice chair, maybe they've been whatever. There's a lot of new working parts that they have to learn to deal with, and we ended up not in a great situation, but not as bad as it could have been. The good news coming out of it is measures are being taken. We've already talked about several things that we can do differently to make sure that things run smoother in the future. One of those is at our last State Central Committee meeting, we gave the chair the empowerment to book venues 3 to 4 years in advance. This way we get larger venues, we have better workspace, things can flow better, we can get more work done at different, we could be working on different things in different areas, so we can get things done faster. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize, and again, John, you and I have talked about that. We work in media. I work for a group of radio stations. I work with sports radio. So I spent a lot of time in the bellies of the sports arenas. And when you go down there and you go to their offices, they have these giant calendar grease boards on the wall. And those boards are like 3 and 4 years out that venues are booked. So if you're waiting to the last minute to decide where you're going to be, you're not always going to get the best location. So while the Salt Palace is a wonderful location and there's a lot of stuff there, they had other things going on in the venue. So we were really limited in the space that we had. And that added to the delay. The way we were set up for registering in the morning, we're working on some things we can do differently there, where we can maybe put some of the, put one larger county with 2 or 3 smaller counties and divide things up so people can get through faster. There's learning that we can do. And I think we learned from this convention, and I don't think we'll see the same outcomes that we saw this last time. And that makes me feel good because it shows me people are being proactive and are communicating.
Well, I'll say 2 years ago, when we were in the Expo Center, things went.
Yes, the Expo Center is great.
I went to the Expo Center. I went to sign in, and there were open tables for people to sign in the beginning of the morning. And
we had more room. We had more space.
Yeah.
And I, in the SEC meeting, I was the one who brought up the suggestion to Rob, and made the motion, and it was approved to do the venues. I don't think we're not the United States of America. We don't need to go to Milwaukee one year for our convention and Houston the next year and Miami the next year. I don't feel for our convention we have to go to Logan and then to St. George and then to Vernal and then out here to Twilla County. We can be at one central location that's fairly convenient for everybody. One of the things that I'm suggesting we start doing is working with the hotel and restaurant commission so that we get special discounts on hotels and things and make it work for everybody. And we just kind of pick a location. I don't know if that will happen, but we're talking and we're brainstorming as an SEC. I also sit on our state executive committee for the GOP. I'm one of 2 representatives along with Lisa Sandberg for CD2. And so we're talking about stuff in a lot of different places. For me, it comes down to a training issue. We've just got to be better trained, better prepared, and which is what Republicans, we tout. It's what we want in education. We want our kids better prepared for their future. We want things more buttoned down. We just have to get things more buttoned down. That's my opinion.
I will say this though. I am very grateful to all the volunteers that we had.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I just want to say, when I went to them, I said, just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking care of us, even though I've been standing in line for a while.
Yes.
I hope that my fellow delegates in the future will always tell the people that volunteer, thank you, because the bottom line is I'm here to represent my precinct, but at least I get something out of it. I feel like I have a little bit of modicum of control, right?
Right.
Those that are there volunteering and helping with this whole process, they get nothing out of it.
Right. To add to that, one thing I would, I'm hoping that someone out there sees this and watches it. If they don't, I'm going to have them go back and replay it and watch at least this section so that I get some brownie points. We need to make sure we clean up after ourselves when we leave. There was one area that was left really a mess, and the volunteers were there later than they needed to be picking up the mess. And it was our GOP volunteers. And so, yeah, when you treat it like you would, camp, like when the Boy Scouts were still cool and viable, you learn to pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace. Let's just make sure we do that wherever we go. Let's not leave, our crap behind.
That's frustrating to hear. Because
it wasn't bad, but there was an area, and it was something that somebody brought up to me a couple of days after and asked me to reach out to somebody on it. And I did, and I don't think it'll happen again. But yeah, let's just make sure we pack it in, we pack it out. And that's all we need to say.
At least the area that I was at, I think everybody did a very good job of cleaning up. I even tried to figure out, okay, can I pick these things up no one's around. I think I'll pick up some of the stuff that may have been left behind and throw it away. So right. That's one thing that we Republicans need to make. I think we are historically good at. We just unfortunately, apparently,
it was a long night. It was a long night. I'm gonna chalk it up to that. And here's what's funny. And John, a lot of people know this, a lot don't. And I'm gonna do a shameless brag here. I'm gonna do a a little brag here. My daughter gave us our first grandbaby on Friday before convention.
Wow.
And so we went to the hospital with her on Thursday. We were there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. By the time that midnight on Saturday rolled around, I was gassed. And my poor wife, who was waiting for me to pick her up at the hospital to take her home, was gassed. But we did it because it's the right thing to do. And that's what I love about Republicans is we'll do the work. We do. And I'm proud of everybody who stayed there. And we did. We had very little attrition. We had enough people there to keep a quorum and do what we needed to do till the end of the night. And that says a lot about our state. Whether you're, farther to the right, more to the middle, wherever you're at, people stayed and we got the job done. And I'm really proud of our GOP party for doing that.
Well, I'd like to say I'm right in my thinking. Everybody else to the left of me is not so correct.
No,
I'm just.
I get that. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that you don't have to. First of all, we don't have to pander. And we can talk about that when we talk about certain political candidates who have certain catchphrases they're trying to focus group and push through to us. I'm not talking about that. But we can brainstorm and we can spitball and we can come up with ideas. And the best ideas I ever had marketing-wise or advertising campaigns I came up with for clients came from really random conversations with random people. So I like having a wide range of people in our party because it gives my brain a chance to work and come up with ideas. So I like having people with different, some here and some there, as long as they know I'm right every time. As long as they all know
that's the key.
At the end of the day, that Chad Saunders is the smartest guy in the room. And if you don't believe him, just ask him. So, it's pretty easy.
That's what I was getting at. Everybody needs to realize that Talk with Jon is always right.
Yes, there you go. No, so I think we're going to see improvements. The bottom line is I think we're going to see improvements with how our conventions are going moving forward. And we're going to put like a book and stuff in place so that when we do transition from one chair to another, there's some continuity.
So here's my question. How much do you think of it was a venue issue?
A lot of it. And it wasn't the venue itself. It was the limited space we had in the venue because we had to wait so long to lock a venue down that was all we had available to us.
Okay.
Now, in a perfect world, there's a lot of millionaires and billionaires out there who want us to give them corporate welfare for their stadiums. I think they should donate. And I think they should do this for the Democrats, for the Utah United Party, for everybody. They should give everybody a date free of charge to use that venue as payback. If they want us to divvy up to help pay for their stadium and for their venues and for their stuff they ought to do, they need to be putting something back. And that's something I'm gonna lobby for the next couple of years, because then we don't have to worry about space. So
I agree. I'm gonna say that has been one of my big thoughts, and why I'm not a big supporter of I believe it was House Bill 54 that allowed write-in candidates, because the reason why I don't like writing, or excuse me,
SB 54.
Sorry, SB 54. The reason why I don't like it is because I feel like money controls who winds up getting the vote.
Special interest and self-interest. I say those words over and over, and I agree. And if it was strictly grassroots, if you had to go out and get the signatures and you had to get a group of precinct chairs and state delegates and your neighbors and your family and your cousin Rerun to go out there and gather signatures for you, I would have no problem with a signature path. The problem is it's all paid for, and it's bought and paid for. And because they're using businesses, they're saying they don't have to show us, you don't have to gram us stuff. Yeah, I've got a real problem with it. We've got to get it fixed. We do. I have a lot of constituents in my neighborhood who want the signature process. They want a primary system where they get to make a choice. I can't get the light bulb to click on for them that the way we're doing it, it's coming down to money. So
it's all about the money. I'd even say even with the signature process, just like you shared, where it's your buddy going out and doing it for you, as opposed to paid people, you pay them to go get your signatures. Still, the big money is going to wind up getting behind those that they want to see.
Definitely. And that's a non-starter for me. I have real problems with that.
And that's why for me, that's why I like the caucus system, why I like the convention. It should be okay, so you don't get 60% in convention. Okay, then there's a primary and everybody else has some choices.
But I would even be comfortable if we sent 2 people out of convention and then we had a primary and then everybody got to vote, but have them be vetted through the caucus convention process. If we're going to look for compromise, that's places I would look for it. The thing we need to teach people is that the caucus convention system is you still have a voice and you are still voting. What you're doing is you're sending Jon, you're sending Chad. We're your advance team. We're your scout team. We go and do the heavy lifting and the vetting and the listening and the talking, and then we bring back to you the best choices based on what we've learned. So you do have a voice. You're not being silenced. You just have to be willing to give up one night every 2 to 4 years to show up to your caucus meeting and select somebody who you trust from your neighborhood to go and be your scout team. It's like baseball or football or basketball. You have scouts, and do scouts always get it right? No, they don't. We're not going to be perfect, but scouts make it, they make the right call more than they make the wrong call. So we need people to realize that the convention caucus system is their voice. They just have to understand how their voice is positioned within inside of it. And again, for me, everything that I've seen the last couple of years with our GOP here in Utah, it really is a training issue. We've got to do a better job of training. We've got to reaffirm our foundations. We've got to fill the cracks that are in our foundations and strengthen it if we want the liberty-loving patriots that we feel we deserve to represent us. It's going to be up to us to teach and train how to do it. We can't yell and scream. We can't shake people by their lapels. We've got to have honest calls and honest conversations with people.
All right. So my illustrious producer, call screener, just put up the phone numbers for us. So all the different platforms that we are on, should you watch this, want to feel free to call in and give your comments at 385-899-2134. That's 385-899-2134. All right. And we are available on both X, we're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, and our own website at kmmu.org. All right, folks. So let's get back to it. How long have you been a delegate?
3 years this time around. I've done it different times in my life. I've done it when I grew up in Washington as a youngster. I've done it here, but I coming out of COVID. I've been in since we came out of COVID.
So here's my question for you. There was a real big push this year to try to get handwritten ballots.
Yes.
What is State Central Committee's thought process? What's yours?
I think the majority want it. I think the majority want it. I want it. What I want and what really ticks me off is I have all of these elected officials at every level tell me they love the idea, but none of them ever do anything with it. I agree with what Mike Lee tweeted out, X'd out, whatever the other day about it's not that hard to count, one day of voting, and let's do it. I believe in my heart of hearts that Election Day should be a federal holiday, and you go to the poll and you vote. And you vote with a paper ballot or whatever you need to do, and you vote. I think it should be that. You have traditional absentee balloting for missionaries who are out of the area, for college students who can't get home, for somebody who maybe they live in Salt Lake, but they work in during the week they're in Chicago for work. Military, invalids, people that are truly, can't get to the poll due to incapacitation, but still have their mental capacities and can vote. There should still be that, but by and large, you show up at your polling place and you vote. And the only way we get that back is through handwritten ballots. So that's where I'm at on it.
What about handwritten ballots at the state convention?
If we could have got it done earlier, I was for it. I'm not for the trying to do it the day of and the showmanship that sometimes goes on with people standing up and trying to get it done on the day of. I think that's a time waster. I think it's something that we need to start on day one after the convention and start working and saying, okay, how do we do this? How do we make this work? And let's strategically put together a plan so that we can make it be effective. Let's if we need to change some rules, let's discuss how we have to change the rules so that we're doing it ahead of time and that we're doing it intelligently and we're not doing it in a way where we just seem angry. A lot of the times, the stuff that you and I want to get done, John, and our friends want to get done, doesn't get done because of how we present ourselves. There's too many people who are frustrated and tired, and I'm frustrated and tired right along with them. The problem is in their presentation and how they go about trying to do it. We've got to improve that if we want to get the things done that we want to get done. And I want to get them done.
Well, our call screener says, yay, thank you, Chad. If the French can do it, so can we.
Yeah, straight up. Because everybody forgets. Do we all remember 20 years ago how everybody loved the purple fingers in Iraq when they got to do their vote for the first time? And everybody put their finger in the purple and came out with the purple finger, were showing off their purple finger. How they went to the voting booth to vote. And it made us feel good because we helped give them that opportunity. Now, looking back in hindsight and everything that went on, I don't want to get into that. But at that moment, we all appreciated the process of voting and inspired many of us. We need to get back to that. So
I've done a little bit of looking into this. And my understanding of the reason why the founding fathers chose the first Tuesday in November, that's like a full week.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they chose that is because up in the Northeast, typically you didn't have 3 feet of snow. The crops were already in. And then down in the South, typically your crops were already in as well.
Pragmatic.
It was like, we want to give we picked a time where it was typically best for the entire country. In my opinion, there's no reason for it to change the date. I've heard some arguments, maybe we should make it on a Saturday. I don't think so because people want their weekends. My opinion is if you're not willing to get in your car and go drive to vote. Now, think how difficult it was for people at the founding of our country up until basically the 1920s. You would have people hop on a horse or get in a carriage, and they would spend an hour, maybe a couple hours, maybe a day or two commuting in that horse and buggy or on that horse to the nearest town to be able to cast their ballot.
Yeah.
It is.
My parents are old. My dad would be 104. My mom would be 97. So my grandparents, my grandparents, not my great, were doing what you're saying. They would get on a horse and drive and go to the county seat to vote, or to go to the precinct office down by the cotton mill, just down the road from the farm, wherever it was at, and they would go to vote, or to the school or wherever, and they would do it in their wagon or they would do it on horse. Yeah, we're not that far removed from that. And they did it, they didn't do it with pride. They didn't do it, they did it because you had to do it. It had to be done. And we've got to get that mentality back. That we all want our rights. Everybody wants their rights. They forget about our responsibilities. with rights come responsibilities, and we've got to get our responsibilities back.
Well, I'm a big proponent for the standpoint of I love the word freedom. I do, but I don't cherish it like I do the word liberty. In my opinion, liberty is a much higher level of freedom than freedom is. Liberty is the what is the proper term? I would say liberty is the responsibility side, it's the freedom, it's the spiritual side, it's the active side of freedom. Freedom, just you have the ability to do a thing, doesn't mean just because you have the ability to do it, you should do it. I mean, people have the ability to get drunk every night. They have the freedom to get drunk every night. It's going to wind up killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I put it at. There's a responsibility side to the freedom equation.
It's funny, the stuff I remember from 7th grade is just crazy. I remember we had our manual in the first 3 days of school. We had to study and learn, the rules of the school, because we were brand new junior high students. And they kept focusing on rights and responsibilities, and they pounded responsibilities just as hard as they did rights. And that has stuck with me. And, that gets into our whole problem with education. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, I'm with you. So yeah, I'm for paper ballots. Sincerely, I'm for paper ballots. I'm for doing it in a way that is intelligent, and us doing it in a way that we just got to work smart, not hard. That's a cliche in the sales world. Work smart, not hard. A lot of our friends are working hard, but they're not working smart. And if we want to get these things done, we just got to start working smarter. Because I want them all. Lately I've been called a rhino. I've been called a squish. I've been called a GOPE, which is GOP establishment, because I don't agree on every little talking point or every little thing. But we're not going to get everything done if we're angry. We're not. It's not going to happen. We've got to get it done through measured, intelligent, and prepared planning. And we can win. That's how we win. So
I would also throw out this. I don't agree with me from 5 years ago. I don't agree with everything I thought 10 years ago. Now, most of it, there's not much has changed, but there's a few things that, if I was to look into it, I'd go, I don't totally think the exact same way on this particular topic. I don't feel the exact same way I did 5-10 years ago.
Hindsight's 2020.
Okay, so let's go to the candidates for office and who you support.
Yes. So I wrote them down here, and I wrote down some notes.
Awesome.
Of why and for. So let's start with governor.
We've got Spencer Cox, Phil Lyman.
Okay, I am voting for and supporting Phil Lyman, unequivocally. I don't agree with everything that the campaign has done, and I get a lot of heat for that. But with that said, I like Phil. I do. I think Phil is.
Why would you suggest someone needs to pull the trigger on casting a vote for Phil Lyman?
He is very smart. He has some very intelligent plans in place. I like the fact that he is a certified public accountant and understands the financial end of things. I really want him in so we can implement his idea for monetizing our natural resources, much like Wyoming does, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Alaska do. I don't think we can get to the point where we're getting a residual check back like Alaska does, but we could eliminate a lot of our taxation if we were to do that. I like how he is willing to stand up to the federal lands issues. I have a very good friend who's in the legislature, and he has said to me that when they're in their meetings that are private and that nobody can really talk about, and he hasn't shared anything that they've said in there, but all he has said is that Phil has some of the best ideas and some of those measured ideas and things that could get things done. And I think that's what you need in a leader, is a person who can look at the problem and come up with the solution. I think Phil can do that. And I'm going to give you an example. In late February, March, Phil had me write some commercials for him, and we put them on the air. The commercials we did talked about restriping our lanes and our lines on the roads because it was hard to see when it was rainy and wet and dark, and fixing the potholes. What did Governor Cox and the state government announce 2 or 3 days ago? A massive project to restripe our lanes. Now, I don't find that accidental, and it was an idea that Phil had long before they did, and I appreciate the fact that Phil had it. Phil is a smart man and will look after our state. And he's a humble guy. And I have a lot of appreciation, a lot of respect for Phil. And I think the number one reason is he is smart, and he will invest in Utah and not the other way around, where he's going to have Utah invest in him. He'll be investing in Utah. So that's it. As far as Governor Cox goes, I like Spencer. I don't like my governor. I could sit all day with Spencer at a basketball game and talk music and movie and pop culture, and I would have a great time. Spencer's a good dude, in my opinion. I don't like our governor. Our governor, he panders, I think, too much. He's too involved in special interest. I think he's beholden to what I call the gig economy. I think he's willing to get in his little DoorDash car with his red bag, which is actually a bag like the new flag that they thrust upon us is the color of his bag. And I think he goes to Ryan Smith at the Jazz and Gail Miller and to the folks that want to redo Snow Basin. And I think he gets the money and delivers the goods. And I think we need less of that. I think we need less of that in our legislature too. So
I frankly, I think the whole Cox family is trying to create the next dynasty, political dynasty.
I think you're right. I think there's that. I hate disagree better. I think it's focus grouping, and it's just dumb. As a marketing media guy, I don't like it. I hated with a passion Stay Weird Utah in his State of the Union address. He listens too much to the marketing geniuses. I use the term genius loosely. And he does too much focus grouping. And his disagree better only goes one way. He'll talk to people to the left of him, but I've noticed he's been noticeably quiet to the people to the right of him. And I do not agree. First of all, I did not agree with the booing. I do not think we should have booed at convention. I'm very proud of Tooele County. We did not boo. We didn't. We had some people stand up and turn their backs. I'm fine with that. I'm totally cool with that. The booing, I think, was wrong. I think the booing was a very small subset of very passionate people. It was not the whole crowd as was portrayed. And I think he made an absolute fool of himself with how he played to that. And his foul boy, F-A-U-X, foul boy, not cowboy, who got up and told us, this is a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry. That was political theater, and it did our state no good. So vote for Lyman, please.
Okay, we're gonna have to speed this up a little bit, pal.
Okay, that's fine.
So Frank Mylar, so we've got the running for Attorney General. Frank Mylar, Derek Brown, and Rachel Harvey.
Frank Mylar, all day and twice on Sunday.
Okay.
And if you need to know why, go to utahdebatecommission.org and watch the debate. Frank is the most seasoned, most professional, and has the experience to hit the ground running on day one. I love Derek Brown to death. He's a good friend. I will not say anything bad about Derek, but Derek is more political than Frank. And I would maybe support Derek in another role at another time. I do not think he's who I want as my attorney general. Rachel has worked in the bureaucracy, knows the bureaucracy, does not have the experience that Frank has. Go to the debate website for the Utah Debate Commission, watch the debate, and you'll see for yourself why I say that. Vote for Frank Mylar.
Okay. State auditor, excuse me.
A lot of people that I know like Ricky Hatch. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't. A lot of people I know like Tina Cannon. A lot of them don't. I'm supporting Tina Cannon. and it comes down to this. She was a county commissioner in Morgan County, where my wife's parents live, where my in-laws live. My father-in-law has spoken very highly about her. He liked the fact that when the good old boys and the city fathers and people were fighting her, she pushed back. I also think she's been working in the office for the last couple of years. I think she's best suited to hit the ground running on day one.
Okay, she is not a CPA. Ricky
That's
Hatch
okay.
is a CPA. This is my answer. So I had a debate with the two of them.
I understand, yeah. And thank you for doing that, because the debate commission should have and they didn't. So I appreciate you doing that, John.
So the one thing that I just was, I'm biting my hand because I almost bit my tongue off. I literally bit my tongue, made it bleed during that thing. So my statement to Ricky Hatch would be, and him saying a CPA, we need a CPA. It's not the state CPA's office; it's the state auditor's office.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the state auditor can and should have CPAs working for them, but we need a general in charge. And a general doesn't have to have been a soldier carrying a rifle. A general can be someone that drove a tank.
Right.
There's.
No, I both people are very nice. They really are. I have some friends out here in Tooele County who have great respect for Ricky and think Ricky would be great at the job. I just happen to disagree, and I think Tina is the better choice.
I agree. Okay, let's move on to Congressional District 2, the one that you happen to live in.
You sure you don't want to save that one for last? That's the most exciting one.
Okay, then we'll save that for last. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go set it. Stags.
Okay,
Stags.
why?
Proven that he can work with people when he was the mayor of Riverton. I like his business acumen, and he's enough of a fighter that he'll fight, but he's also enough of a listener that he'll listen. I like Trent. I've gotten to know Trent a lot over the last 9 months. Have a lot of respect for him. I like Wilson and Walton are out of it. I'm not even going to address them. Curtis, I like Jon. I do. I like a lot about Jon, but he's too back and forth on some issues. His stock purchases bother me. Bother me
big time,
because they may not be illegal, but they're not necessarily ethical. And I wish he would have handled them better than he has. And I don't like how he's went on the attack with Trent after Trent called him out on it. I wish he would have just dealt with it better. He, like the governor, tends to pander too much. I actually like a lot of his stuff he wants to do with gas and oil and things like that. He's not a climate change person. He is a steward of the land person, but he feels to win back in DC that he has to say climate change. I think he needs to change the narrative. So I don't like that he doesn't
change the narrative. Change the narrative.
But I agree with the principles of what he wants to do. I don't agree with the wording and stuff, and that tells me that he's too willing to cave.
Okay, so I want to go back to Phil Lyman. One of the reasons why I tell my audience to vote for Phil Lyman, he came out of convention as the overwhelming.
Yes,
he won convention, and that's another reason why I say Trent Staggs. Here's one of the problems that I have with John Curtis. Okay, John Curtis, if you really are, like you said, he panders. And I have a hard time with voting someone and believing someone when they use the left's verbiage. What we need to do is take the ground back and say, we need to be good stewards of the land God gave us. And if he was saying that all the time, I could believe him. To me, I have heard him in too many situations talk way too close to actually what I would call the green movement, and I want no part of it.
No, I agree with that. But when I've actually had some conversations with him, it's not the green movement. Again, if he would just talk plain, people would buy into it. And some of the things he shared are really like common sense. So, but I would rather he would have stayed in Congress. Just,
I've heard him say too many of the green positive words in the moments when he could have been saying words otherwise, and I that's where I'm at.
That's where my head's at too. But Staggs and Lyman, because they were our convention nominees as well, and that's huge for me.
Next, what's the next one you want to cover?
Let's talk school boards, because I do think those are important.
Okay, Carrie Bartholomew down in State School Board 13. That's my area.
For sure. Yeah, Carrie Bartholomew, Carrie and I grew up in the same hometown. Everybody's sick of hearing this. We both grew up in Moses Lake, Washington, about 10 years apart. Carrie and I have had some great conversations because we had a lot of the same teachers. We want to see education get back to where it was when the people who educated us, where they taught you how to be a thinker, not how to think. They taught you how to think, not what to think. And you did not know what your teacher's politics were on any issue. And we want to get back to that. And I've gotten to know Carrie quite a bit over the last year or so, and I have a lot of respect for her. Definitely. Joanne Britton down in St. George, I've gotten to know her over the last few weeks. I really have a lot of respect for her. A lot of respect. Rod Hall, Pastor Rod, can I get an amen? Can I have a witness? Vote for Pastor Rod. Chris Kimball, one of my dearest friends. We've fought shoulder to shoulder on the flag issue. We've been on the SEC together. I love Chris. Please, if you can get Chris across the aisle, do. Cole Kelly, I'm excited to see what he'll do. This is the one that's going to make everybody mad. Matt Hymas over Monica Wilbur. I believe that Monica and Natalie and I agree on 75 to 80% of everything. I believe that in my heart of hearts. I believe there are people who are Sam Adams, and I believe there are people who are John Adams. I believe there are people who are Thomas Paine, and there are people who are Thomas Jefferson. You need both. Thomas Paine and Sam Adams, if you look through history, they did great at getting the revolution started and getting the people motivated and getting them moving. When it came time to govern and the Continental Congress and things like that, Sam was not as effective and eventually fell away. John was able to legislate and create and do the business of state. I don't feel that Melanie is the right answer for that. There is a group of us out here in Tooele County. We sat down and had what I jokingly call an intervention with Matt Hymas. We talked to Matt and told him we don't like how he's been voting. We don't like what he's been doing. And we had an intervention. And we gave him a list of demands. And I don't think it was just for political, because watching him, the light bulb clicked on, the eyes opened up, and you could see that he was getting what we were saying. And in that time, he has actually made some significant changes. He has been communicating with some people like Nicolene Peck, who is a very smart, very savvy person that's about kids. He's asked her for advice. I have a lot of respect for the fact that when Education Utah, who donated money to his campaign, came out and called all of the challengers extreme right, he stood up to him and said, no, that's not right. Don't call him that. That takes a lot of character to say that to somebody who's donating money to your campaign. And he runs one of the most successful charter schools out here in Tooele County. And they talk a lot about liberty, and they talk about freedom, and they talk about—
What school is it? So this is
Excelsior Academy. Excelsior Academy.
Okay.
It was not running well until he took it over, and he's done a really good job. And so I would like us to give Matt another chance, but Matt is also on notice if he does not fulfill what we're asking him to. We have 2 or 3 excellent candidates in the wings ready to pounce. So I know that's not going to be popular with a lot of people, but that's where my head is at on that.
And that's a 4-year position, right?
It's a 4-year position.
Okay. How strongly do you feel he's evidenced that he has made some of the changes that you're asking him to make? 65
to 70%, but it's only been 2 or 3 weeks. So we haven't had enough time for a real, for a real, we need a little more time, but he's communicating, and he's communicating in the right ways. And like I say, I respect that. I don't always get that impression, and others I've talked to don't always get that impression from his opponent. They feel like it's her way or the highway. And if you do challenge her or anything, you get major pushback. I don't respect that. Again, Sam Adams, John Adams, I will fight shoulder to shoulder with her to bring down from the outside. I'm with her. I just don't know that it'll be as effective on the school board.
Okay.
That's just being honest.
Next position.
Yes. CD2.
CD2. Actually, well, let's go CD3. Do you have an opinion on CD3?
I like everybody. I don't think you're going to get a loser out of that bunch, with the exception of one. I won't say his name just to not embarrass him. It's Kennedy's to win. I love J.R. Bird. I have a lot of respect for J.R. Bird. I really like J.R. I've gotten to know him. I don't agree on social issues and some of the MAGA comments of frugal John Dougal, but I believe he's a good man that would be fiscally conservative and take care of stuff back in DC that way. So I like John. I don't know Jensen that well. I don't know a lot about him. I don't like the fact that he didn't really do the caucus convention system and just spent a lot of money. So he's kind of disqualified. Stuart Pay, not really, Kennedy for the win. J.R. Bird might surprise. And I like frugal Dougal.
Here's what I'd ask J.R. Bird. You've got to get involved in something else and get elected somewhere else.
I feel like this is his coming out party.
my problem with him is really principled and as well as frugal Dougal. I'm like, listen, guys, sorry, you say you're Republicans. The convention winner was Kennedy.
Yeah, Mike Kennedy all the way. Honestly, Mike Kennedy all the way, for real.
Okay, let's go to District 2.
Okay. This isn't a secret. People know how I feel. I have a lot of respect for Celeste Malloy. I do. I don't agree with her on everything, and I don't like everything that she's done, but I have a lot of respect for a lot of people, namely my county commissioners. I have five county. I don't have commissioners anymore. I have councilmen. I have 5 county councilmen. I have a sheriff who I think personally I have the best sheriff in the state of Utah, in Paul Wimmer. A lot of respect for Paul Wimmer. I like the mayor of Grantsville a lot. Good man. I like my leadership here and in some other areas in CD2 where I've gotten to know people. They trust and like Celeste Malloy because they believe she gets things done for CD2 and will continue to do so. The number one thing that I bring up, because it doesn't have to do with money or pork barrel politics. We had an issue out here where the federal government, Tooele County is heavy BLM land. The Fed wanted our emergency services to be the responders on federal land and wanted us to foot the bill for it. She went to the bat and fought for us on it. I respect that. And I trust my county councilmen who deal with her on a regular basis and say, yeah, she's legit. I like the fact that she got the Donald Trump endorsement yesterday. Today, she got the Spencer Cox endorsement. She's gotten endorsements from, Gary Herbert, every congressman in Utah, so Burgess Owens and Curtis Ann Moore. So that's diverse. Jim Jordan, the founder of the Freedom Caucus, Steve Scalise, Speaker Johnson, the men who work with her, Van Ord, he was a grunt. He was an everyday soldier for 23 years. He was a non-commissioned officer, and he's out of Wisconsin. Grew up without a pot to piss in. And he works closely with her and has come and said, yeah, I'll fight shoulder to shoulder with her any day. I like the fact that Celeste is a lot like me and grew up in blue-collar conditions. Town of about 100 people, a single wide trailer, and earned her way out of it with a scholarship from the 4-H or FFA on soil. Took that and built it into a career, then became an attorney and has fought for our rights in CD2 and in Utah. Everybody talks about the omnibus bill. I want everybody to think about this for a minute. And they talk about the NDAA vote last fall.
And I'm going to also say I see Paul Miller's here, so we'll be wrapping up with.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to stress, this is an important point.
I know. I want. Please get it in. Paul will be to you in a minute.
I had some people text me and complain about her vote, so I texted her and reached out to her back in the fall and said, "What's going on? Why'd you do this vote this way?" I figured I'd get an email. Figured I'd get a phone call. 15 minutes later, I'm sitting at my desk working. My phone rings, and it's Celeste Malloy. And she calls me and she says, Chad, I know people aren't going to be happy with this vote, but here's why we did it. It's a 6-month Band-Aid. We're going to fix it. This is what we're going to do in that time to fix it. And we're going to get it fixed. I said, okay, I'll take your word for it. Actions, not words. Prove me that you're going to do this. I followed along. Everything was going just like she told me until we got just before the vote. And then some of these people that I'm talking about who agree with us and are passionate and are fed up and tired, but are also angry, threw a hand grenade in at the Congress and destroyed the program that we had worked that would have taken care of FISA, would have taken care of the omnibus bill and all of that. It got blown up in the final hours by some people who want to be the stud duck of the pond. They had to scramble and get done what they did to avoid a shutdown. Now, Jenkins has said, oh, I'm okay with a shutdown. People said they're okay with a shutdown. Take this into consideration. We get a shutdown. They're not going to pay the federal workers that we have that live in our state. It's going to be an impact on them. But it's going to open the door for President, I can't remember what I had for lunch 2 hours ago, to do executive order after executive order to put in place the stuff that he wants and to spend the money the way he wants because we're in this shutdown. So a lot of stuff that he would do, we would have to turn around then and undo, and we would probably lose our majority because every time there's been a shutdown, we lose the majority. We lose the popular consensus in the media and we lose the majority. They did what they had to do. I don't like it. I don't think she likes it, but they did it and it had to be done. And, you know, the fact that Trump endorsed her, I know for a fact that Trump has talked to her multiple times. Contrary to what people are saying on social media, it wasn't a staffer who said, hey, I think you need to vote for Celeste Malloy. And Celeste Malloy just made us a big contribution, so you need to endorse her. Let's look at the fact. Trump needs the wins. Trump needs to win going into this election. He's not going to back somebody that he doesn't believe can win and will be effective. So if Trump's backing her, I'm good with that. I'm good that she has a broad-based support. And Jenkins, to me, you know, everything with him has been negative. It's all been negative campaigning. Talks about, you know, Dixie values compared to DC values. Well, listen here, son. Up until 3 years ago, you were living in Silicon Valley working for Google. Before that, you spent 9 years as a liaison for the government, which is basically a lobbyist. You're more beltway than the belt that holds up my pants. And my problem is that nobody has challenged him on any of this. And everything that he has campaigned on has been about what Celeste does wrong, not what he will do differently. And he's put his whole campaign on, one more second, he's put his whole campaign on, I'll go up there and back with Trump. I'll back Trump. I'll back Trump. Trump said, I want Celeste. So I guess he needs to drop out and let Celeste win because Celeste is backing Trump and he says he'll back Trump. So thanks for playing. We have some lovely parting gifts for you. We'll see you next go around, sir. How was that? John, how was that? Did I give you the hour you deserved?
You gave me more than the hour I deserved. So thank you. Chad, I'm going to disagree with you on this. Is one that we're going to disagree on. I have real problems with FISA, and I have a real problem with her just what she did with the automatic draft. So
I get that, and I think you need to have a deeper conversation with her if you haven't. Let's get her on your show. I will help you get her on your show.
Let's do. All right. Chad, thanks for being here. Appreciate you coming on.
Love you, John. Hey, tell Miller best of luck. Good dude. Good dude.
Okay. All right. We will. All right, Chad, thanks for being here. God bless you, brother. And on a personal note, we'll see you Thursday at 10:30.
Thursday, 10:30.
Okay.
I'll see you at Traverse Mountain.
Take care, my friend. See you. Bye. All right, folks. That was Chad Saunders. Now we're going to bring on my current guest joining me, Paul Miller, running for District 1. All right, so Paul, how is you said the video or the audio is really in and out. How does it seem now?
How's it going? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? Sounds like, okay, so let's do this.
I wonder if
I'm going to ask my producer, and I'm going to get his take on this. Dwayne,
connection's bad.
It could be. Dwayne, can you hear me, sir?
I can.
We're good. Okay.
Our feed is good. There's just something wrong with Paul's speakers, I think.
Okay, Paul, let's see if we can figure that out.
Oh, your guys' feed is good?
Our feed is solid. So what my
can hear
producer
you.
said, our feed's solid. Do you have a headset you can use? Let me type. Let's see if we can figure this out. That's all right.
If I move to this side of the room, is it better?
I don't think.
Okay.
You're coming in fine right now with us.
So
we hear you fine.
Here, let me switch.
Yeah, we're hearing you fine, Paul. I'm afraid that you don't hear us fine.
And he can't hear you yet, John. So you can talk and he won't hear.
Oh, me? Like, yeah, you guys are just very glitchy right now. So I'm trying to switch to my. Sorry, I was planning on being home, but I forgot my kids had hockey practice. So,
are you on your phone or are you on a laptop? Okay.
Let's try it again.
Let's try it one more time. All right, Paul, is this working any better? Because we can hear you fine. We were able to hear you. Apparently, there's an issue with you hearing us. Can you hear us better?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't, when I scheduled this, I didn't realize that my kids had hockey that I needed to get them to. So I'm here at the hockey arena, and so I was trying off their Wi-Fi, but my mobile hotspot's going to be better. So
yeah, you can hear us now, Paul?
Yeah,
great.
You guys are good.
Yes. It's probably just a bandwidth issue. Okay, so
yeah.
So we hear you just fine. You're coming through great. So Paul,
carry on, gentlemen. Carry on.
Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate it. That's our producer and call screener. So Paul, we're going to take you as long as you can go. We're going to go through as many of the questions as we possibly can. Paul Miller, who is running for the 1st Congressional District, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on Talk with John. We appreciate you being here today.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
All right, let's get to. So I called up Paul and said, "Hey, Paul, I'd like to get you on. I've got 23 questions that I'd like to run people through. We'll see if we can get through all of them. I'll make sure to do the best that we can to get through the ones that matter." So, number one question. Let's just get going if we can. And the first couple of questions gives you, for the first 3 questions, feel free to just answer those questions. And then after that 3rd question, we want you to further introduce yourself and get into it. But I think these first 3 questions will help give us an idea of who you are and kind of your thought process a little bit. And all of them, we want to get your thought, it'll give our audience a chance to know how you've thought about things and so forth, things that matter to my audience. So first question is, what qualifies you for running for Congressional District 1 for the state of Utah? What qualifies you for that office?
Yeah, so for my work, I'm an electrician. To be honest, I've never considered running for office until this point, and so had I planned on that, I probably would have planned my career a little bit more differently. But in my job, I'm a foreman, and so I have anywhere from 1 to 20 guys under me, that I'm directing, delegating. I'm coordinating with all the engineers, the owner of the building, the general contractor. Like there's a lot of coordination that goes into it, and it's I find similarities in that, to kind of well, slight similarities. I know it's going to be completely different if I were to be elected, but congressmen have their own staff, where they have researchers and legal consultants and they have other congressmen that they're friends with and align with, and so there I have a deep concern for what's going on in our country right now. Our country's in a world of hurt. We're not headed in the right direction, and that's what I want to change.
Okay. Second question. Why should the current office holder not retain his seat as Congressional District 1?
Oh man, how deep do I want to go? Policy wise, I really don't like. I know the guy that was talking before me was talking about Celeste and her voting for omnibuses and defending those and stuff. And I have a similar stance as probably Colby Jenkins does, where I hate that they vote on these omnibus bills. Like, we shouldn't be voting on omnibus bills, and they do this on purpose. So, and Blake Moore does the same thing. He's voted for the omnibus, the minibus, the Ukraine aid, Israel, you name it, and he's probably voted for it. With the exceptions of the Inflation Reduction Act and the infrastructure bill. Like, he didn't vote for those, which was good. And so. With omnibus and minibus bills, like, if you get Blake Moore's newsletter, like a lot of people do in our district, you'll find that there's one common theme. And that theme is that he's always saying that he's voting for our veterans and he's voting for our military. And this is by design. So Democrats and the White House, they usually plan these budgets behind closed doors. Nobody knows what's in them. And then in the minibus bill, which is the 6 smallest appropriations divisions, one of those divisions is the veterans. So when he votes for the minibus bill, I'm voting to fund care for our veterans, which is a worthwhile goal, but that negates all of the wasteful spending that we're trying to do away with. And then when it comes to the omnibus bill, that's military operations and the military spending, right? And so he always has an excuse or a cop out to vote for the minibus or omnibus bills, and it goes against the very rules that the Republican conference has set in place. Like, they all agreed to these rules, which were single line veto item power, debate each appropriations division individually, and to have ample time to debate and vet these spending bills. And they suspend the rules and pass the spending bill anyways. And so like, our debt hasn't gotten any better since Blake's been in office. He says that he's for reducing the deficit, but our deficit is almost identical to what it was last year. And so there's that. There's his vote on FISA. I could go into his campaign financing. So when he votes for a military spending bill, he gets $50,000 contributions into his campaign account, and that's happened for 3 of the previous military spending bills. Yeah, $50,000, and that's from one company, ES3, that is in Clearfield. They're a military subcontractor, and which I don't think is right. That's unacceptable. And then I recently purchased a report from IncFact, INCFACT, so incfact.com, about the Boyer Corporation. And the Boyer Corporation is owned by his father-in-law, so his wife's dad. And they're a real estate developer in Utah, a big one. and so looking at their revenue, like if you take their revenue, kind of flat lines, right, from 2014 to 2020, and if you average that out, it's about $94 million, okay, a year. And then in 2021, when Blake first got in office, they made 112 million, and then it jumps after that. So when he's on Ways and Means Committee and the Budget Committee, it was where we see this huge growth. So it blows up to 336 million, so a 300% increase, and then 935 million. So we're talking like 1,000% increase in 2 years.
Wow.
And so that's not natural or organic, in my opinion. And voters can make their own conclusion to this. I posted on my website, and so why. And that posed the question: why would Blake vote against spending bills when he's getting a piece of the pie and everybody else is also? So there's a lot to it. I really hate the money laundering in Congress. It's bankrupting our nation, and so I'm really against it.
Okay, so what would you? No, I asked you why you. So now, why you and not him?
Yeah. Oh, so why would I do better than him?
Yes,
because we need to actually look at these appropriations divisions, and we need to get the government waste out. There's a lot of foreign aid in these omnibus bills and minibus bills. There's one thing that was concerning to me was the Ryan White AIDS Foundation. Like, they are getting billions of dollars for an AIDS foundation, and then we're also spending hundreds of millions of dollars for AIDS prevention throughout the world. Why is it our duty to prevent AIDS all around the world? And so, like, there's a lot to get out of these spending bills. There's a lot of waste going around. So that's what I would hope to change. But I know I'm just going to be one out of 435, members in Congress. So it's going to be hard to be that one person, making a difference. And
let me talk a little bit to the Ben Shapiro thought, shall we say?
Okay.
Ben Shapiro thought is, hey, we can't have a government shutdown, because if we have a government shutdown, we're going to wind up, losing. We're going to wind up having the Democrats wind up taking the House back and so forth. And I can understand that thought process on some level, but at some point we're knocking on the door of $37 trillion in debt. In fact, I think we've already crossed that Rubicon. I'll fact check myself in just a minute.
We're at 35 right now.
Okay, so right now we are over 100% of the gross GDP for the United States in debt.
Yeah, 124. Yeah.
So we are at we're coming up on the point where we're now at the point where just the interest on the debt is higher than we passed the Rubicon, that the interest on the debt is now higher than our military budget.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, $1 trillion a year.
We are coming up on the point where we are not going to be. The United States is going to wind up becoming some third-rate country because we can't pay our bills, and we have
exactly
the point. So, do we push that pain down? Is that going to be 5 years from now? Is it going to be 10 years from now? Do we wait till then, or do we start? It's going to be painful now, but sometime we're going to feel pain. The question is how much pain are we going to feel?
Exactly. And I love how you word that. How much pain are we going to be in? Because that's really what it is. Like, and you were talking about the debt. and the numbers on that. Like if you go to nationaldebtclock.org and you go to if you go to nationaldebtclock.org, and there's a fast forward button or a time travel button. And if you look at 2028, so only one presidential term, we'll be 46 trillion in debt and 1.4 trillion in interest. And then our debt to GDP ratio will be, I say somewhere closer to 140%, but I don't know if it'll climb that high that fast. And so so that's the thing. We're running out of runway. We're headed for that cliff. And like when you consider Argentina had a lot of social programs, a lot of government funding for everything. And they're like, people would buy their groceries as soon as they got their paycheck. They buy their month's worth of groceries, and then they go and exchange their money for the US dollar, because that was the most stable at that time. And then that's how they save their money is they exchange it for the US dollar, because the Argentinian peso or whatever it was is just skyrocketing the inflation rate, because they just keep printing more and more money. And so if we don't tackle our debt issue now, the pain is going to be a lot worse later. And so like, and it sucks to say this, but no spending's off the table. Mandatory spending, discretionary spending. We really need to get a hold on Medicare and the waste and improper payments through there. As far as Social Security goes, we're looking at there was a policy proposed that we reduce the inflation rate, so we just reduce the growth rate, right, by 7%, and that would help not insolvent and sustainable. And so that's the thing. Like I understand, like I am by no means am I a fan of a government shutdown. I don't want it. But when congressional leadership brings an omnibus bill, a 1,012-page omnibus bill to your desk, 36 hours before you vote for it, and that's not even 36 hours of debating it, like this is just 36 hours of you trying to filter through 1,000 pages of it. And so like it's an abusive process, and it's just they're addicted to money laundering. They're addicted to getting government funds, government contracts to their big donors, to these nonprofits.
We're giving money to George Soros. We're giving money to Planned Parenthood. There's a lot of people in the state of Utah that wants no part of that. Thank you. So I pulled up the national debt clock, and my producer also typed up real quick. We're at $34.833 trillion. So that's where it stands right now. According to the national debt clock, every citizen owes $103,000. The average debt payer, the debt per taxpayer, though, is almost $267,000. Okay, let's go to question 3, because we're only at question 3.
I know, sorry.
That's okay. What is the most important thing you would do if you were to win the office? What would be the most important thing you do as an office holder?
The most important, it comes down to a few. I'm trying to decide, if transparency, integrity, votes for, sustainability for America. I would probably say votes for sustainability for America, because that kind of hits kind of all three.
Okay. Paul, I'm going to ask you this. That, to me, is the correct answer. The second best answer, I think, and this is what I'd ask you to do, should you be elected to Congress, it would be the watchman on the hill to tell us what's coming down the pike that we're not seeing. I'm going to ask you to do that, too. Be that watchman on the hill.
Yes.
Number 4, when was the last time you read the Constitution of the United States?
All of it or part of it?
Either one. I'll take the answer to either one.
If you want part of it, it was an hour ago. If it was all of it, it was months ago. So,
Okay.
but yeah, like,
Hey.
yeah, there was, yeah, because there's this debate right now, where Democrats are saying that, that our form of government is a democracy, but it's not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. If you look in, the Pledge of Allegiance says, and the republic for which it stands,
Right.
And we also have Article 4, Section 4 in the Constitution that says every state shall have a Republican form of government. And so nowhere in the Constitution does it say that we are a democracy or that we have a democratic government.
So I'm going to give one man's opinion. The reason why the Democrats want to keep the word democracy in, because that states to their party.
Yeah.
As soon as you start saying republic, it starts saying to the Republican Party. So the mainstream media, the Democrat mainstream media, wants to make sure the Democrats stay in power.
Yeah.
So,
and the constitutional part, the constitutional republic, the constitutional part is very critical, and I was told yesterday, like when Tulsi Gabbard was first elected, that every year they read the Constitution and they let members of Congress read a section of the Constitution. And so she went because she wanted to read it, and she got a lot of flack. She was the only Democrat that went to read a section of the Constitution, which is very concerning. Like, the Constitution is the focal point of our government. It's what holds it all together.
well, I would say that goes to that speaks exactly to why you should never trust a Democrat in national office.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. Is it the place for government to have American citizens, if there, say, was a 5 to 10% death rate, to shut down and tell what Americans can do as far as shutting down their businesses or their schools or so forth?
Oh man, this one's really hard, because we just had COVID, and it's a really tough decision, and I don't envy anyone that was in government during COVID. But we have our constitutional rights, and they're God-given rights. And so we have that freedom to go to church. We have that freedom, to go and do the things. Like, why was it legal for people to protest, but people couldn't go to church, or people couldn't do other things that were outside in groups, and so the government picks its winners and losers, and but we are all essential. We all have families that we're caring for. We all, like, everybody's important. I don't care who you are. So I disagree with shutting down the economy and everything like that.
Okay, thank you. When a group or person asks you to run or vote for a bill, how will you decide whether you will run that bill or you won't support that bill?
It depends on who it is. I'll probably say, like, I'm not a genius. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Like, that sounds really bad coming out like that. But I'm trying to stay humble here. Like there's going to be people that are, there's people that are going to know about certain subjects more than I do. And so that's the thing. It depends on who it is, and it depends on what the bill's for. So I trust a lot of the people. I've admired a lot of the people in the Freedom Caucus. So is it some of the people from the Freedom Caucus, or is this somebody that's part of the establishment? Like it depends on who it is. but yeah, there's going to be a lot of thought and prayer and advice that I'm going to get, and yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. Number 7. What are your thoughts on the LGBT woke movement and trans athletes that we seem to have coming at us here in the United States?
The LGBT religion and transgenders,
and the woke policies. So
yeah, and the woke policies. Yeah, I am 100% against them. I'm not against gay people. Like if that's your sexual orientation and you want to do that, like do it behind closed doors. I don't need to hear about it. If like your sexual orientation is the only thing that I know about you, there's something wrong. So just be you, and just be the best person that you can be without running on your sexual orientation. And so but yeah, the transgender thing, I believe it's just all mental illness. You can, and I say that because if you look at the rate of suicide, and so
and real quickly, folks, he's pausing because he's reading what my producer is putting up. He just said, "Yay, a libertarian!" Thank you, Paul. So I'll read the comments from my producer.
Yeah, no, you're okay. Yeah, I'm not a multitasker. And so anyway, but if you look at the suicide rates, there's a 40%. 40% of them have already tried suicide, and 80% of them have contemplated suicide. So that right there tells you that there's a mental problem here, and the fact that you will, like, what is a man and what is a woman? Well, a man has the male genitalia and women have female genitalia, and a man with a penis gets a woman pregnant, and a woman can't get a man pregnant, and two men can't get pregnant, so that's the thing, that's why the transgender thing, you will never be.
We should have put you in the Supreme Court instead, because
right, yeah,
that's a pretty simple answer.
Yeah, and so where was I going with this? But man, I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about woke policies, the LGBT movement.
Yeah, and transgenders. And my thing about transgenders is, if you go to Wikipedia and you look up the definition of personality and look at the definition of gender, okay? And it talks about 3 things. It's social, behavioral, and psychological, right? It talks about like these 3 aspects, and it talks about them in both definitions. And so when I ask people, like, what definition goes with personality, what definition goes with gender, and they always get it wrong, always. And so why are people chopping off their genitalia for their personality? It's okay to be a little feminine. It's okay to be masculine if you're a girl, like who cares? You're you, be you. You don't need to mutilate your body for it. You don't need to be a pharmaceutical lifelong patient for it, and so that's what I want. I want, just accept yourself. And as far as the woke policies go, the DEI is anti-whiteness. It's it's racism against whites, which is abhorrent. The climate change, climate alarmism is a farce to me. Like, I don't believe that climate change is an existential threat. Like, yeah, we might have a little bit. We might have a little bit of an effect on temperature, but that it's not going to like ruin the world or anything like that. There's methane levels in the atmosphere right now, and the methane levels, which are 28 to 100 times worse than CO2, and methane levels are rising. And they don't know why the methane levels are rising. It's not human induced. And so, like, the world, or not the world, the earth, the earth has its own plan, it cleans itself. It has, and so that's the thing. And, it's foolish to think that like a carbon tax or anything, paying more money to the government is going to fix the weather. That it's just foolish.
Right. Okay. Similar question as to one previously asked, but should the government be allowed to shut down businesses in the private sector, or should they be allowed to promote businesses, or basically pick which type of industries or businesses succeed?
No, they shouldn't. And this ties into the climate agenda too. We see it with the EV market in cars, right? So like the government is shoving the EV market down our throats. Like Ford, we take Ford as an example. Like Ford lost $1 billion in their EV market share, $1 billion. And so you would think that you would quit like developing and selling EVs if you're losing $1 billion, from your EV market. But they keep going, because the Department of Energy has given them a $6 billion grant. So they're still profiting $5 billion. And guess who's paying for that? We are. Every EV that Ford sells costs the taxpayers about $72,000. So like this is ridiculous. We need to stop it. It'll save us a lot of money if we get rid of all of these climate incentives, because look who's pushing solar and wind power. Al Gore. Al Gore is going and getting paid millions of dollars to go campaign to other governments to go invest in solar and wind. And guess what industries he's invested in? Solar and wind. So guess who makes money off of that? Al Gore. So he's double dipping here, He
also makes money off of the what is it? The I almost said climate bucks, but I forget what it is. But you have to pay money to the climate agenda. It'll come to me.
The climate credits.
There you go. Well done. See, you pulled it faster than I did. You're the smartest man in the room right at the moment. And in this virtual room as well. Real quickly, I want to read this comment from Dwayne. Climate change is real. 12,000 years ago, Yosemite had 3,000 feet of ice in it. It's warmer now. There's no ice. The carbon tax credit. Okay, thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for helping us out. Let's go to number 9. I've got some questions on who you voted for or supported in the past. So 4 years ago and back in 2016, who did you vote for? Did you vote for, let's go back to 2016 primary. There was, here in the state of Utah, there was Donald Trump, there was Ted Cruz, and I want to say Mark Rubio was still in. Do you remember who you supported for in the primary?
Yeah, Ben Carson. So I voted for Ben Carson in the primary. He was still in there, and I really liked Ben Carson at the time. Seemed really logical, had really sophisticated answers to all of the issues. And his composure was very, very good. And I was a Trump fan before he declared he was going to run for presidency, and then while he was running, I kind of became a never Trumper in 2016, and so I voted for Evan McMullin. Don't judge me on this.
Oh my God!
And I know. There you go. I like that. And so And I knew I was kind of throwing my vote away. But I was really concerned about, him talking to other world leaders like he did to the other candidates, And so that really scared me at the moment. Like, I loved his policies, but as far as him talking to others, I was scared. And then he got elected, and his first 100 days in office changed me. Donald Trump fulfilled every campaign promise that he campaigned on except for 3, which was reducing taxes, which came later, repealing Obamacare, which they would have had if John McCain would have actually voted for it like he said he would, and building the border wall, which some of that came later, and we're still working on getting that done. And so, but none other time in history has a president, fulfilled nearly every campaign promise in his first 100 days. And so in 2020, I voted for Trump. So,
okay. Same time frame. There was so right now we've got the new people running for Senate. We got Trent Staggs, but 6 years ago there was Mitt Romney and
Mike Kennedy.
Who did you vote for?
Mike Kennedy all the way.
Okay, you got at least one of those answers right. Well done.
I know, right?
Okay.
And I actually hope he wins CD3, him or J.R. Bird. So
January 6th, was it Trump supporters? Okay, so what are your thoughts on January 6th? On January 6th, do you think it was all Trump supporters? Do you think it was an insurrection? What are your thoughts there?
No, it wasn't all Trump supporters. There was FBI agents actors in the crowd. There were groups of people that the Democrats and the FBI had planted into the crowd. You can kind of and when you look at the videos, look at the apparel that people are wearing. Notice that they have fresh, clean hats on. A Trump supporter doesn't have fresh, clean Trump apparel on, if they're a true Trump supporter. It is worn, it's been worn, it's dirty, it is not fresh and clean. And so that's one, takeaway from that. And then you got Ray Epps. Ray Epps, here's a guy that's, telling everybody, hey, we need to go into the Capitol. Who's with me? Let's go, and no, none of the fences were even knocked down at that point. He was gathering people to do that. So obviously there was already a plan to do it. And what Trump said in his speech was perfect. It was fine. Let's peacefully and patriotically go make our voices heard, our voices, and peacefully and patriotically. And so it was a protest. It wasn't a riot. This was all orchestrated, by secret powers, to me. And those that were breaking glass, those need to be prosecuted. Full stop. If you were doing something bad or whatever, then yeah, you need to be prosecuted. But the majority of the people about January 6th were peaceful and, just made a bad decision to walk into the White House where they shouldn't have been.
So one issue that I have with the current office holder that has District 1, where in the world are you with supporting the J6? 1. 2, where are you on demanding Mike Johnson keeps his commitment to the American public that he's going to release the videos? There's been a few videos released, and then it's like all of a sudden he got amnesia about it. I don't know. Maybe him and Biden hang out too much together. Yeah. And the amnesia of Biden is starting to rub off on him.
And about Blake, he voted for the January 6th Select Committee, which I knew even at that point that it was already a pre-drawn conclusion before the committee was even formed. The Democrats were bloodthirsty to get Trump for anything. They've been trying to impeach him for the stupidest little thing, a phone call with Zelensky for January 6th. Like, they were looking for anything to impeach Trump. And that's exactly what it'll be if the Democrats hold the majority in the House or the Senate or whatever. They'll always be trying to investigate him or impeach him or whatever if he gets elected here in November.
Thoughts on national debt?
Oh, I think I hit that one pretty hard already.
Okay.
We're in big trouble.
Is there any last thoughts you want to give on that?
No.
Okay.
I think I covered it pretty good.
Thoughts on education?
The Department of Education needs to be defunded. So all of the education decisions need to come back to the states. That is a state power. That's not a federal power. And so I'm okay with funding Pell Grants and stuff like that. I think that's okay. That's some of what the Department of Education does. But by no means should the Department of Education be involved with student loans or anything like that.
Okay. Your thoughts on abortion?
If there is abortion allowed, then the states need to decide it. Like, by no means should Congress be deciding that. But, and I say this because there's a similarity that I'll draw here. If there's a national abortion ban, so abortion with the 3 exceptions in there, rape, incest, and the mother's life. So I am in favor of the 3 exceptions, but a national abortion ban I would vote for. And because of the similarity between that and the Emancipation Proclamation, like would you have voted for the Emancipation Proclamation? I would, like,
I'd like to think I would have.
Yeah. And so why is that? Because all men are created equal, right? And so if you know about biology and what creates a human? Well, when a sperm fertilizes an egg and there's implantation on the uterine wall, right? Like, that starts human life. So that is a new human. So it doesn't matter if that life is wanted or not wanted by the mother. It's a human, and so, like, all men are created equal, and so it was created, and the Constitution, the first paragraph in the Constitution, also talks about defending our liberty, for us and our posterity. Yeah. So what is our posterity? Our offspring, is a synonym of posterity. And what's a synonym of offspring? A baby. And so that's the thing. Like, I don't think that society is there yet. So I don't think that this is going to come up in the next session of Congress or anything like that. But I would vote in favor of it.
Okay. Let's go to the next question. So, your thoughts: over 66% of Utah is owned by the federal government. What are your thoughts on that?
I wish that we had more local control and state control of federal lands. I really hate how Clinton and Obama and Biden have been swapping at land and making monuments out of southern Utah, and so we need to get those back, and we need to repeal the Antiquities Act so they can't keep abusing it. Because this last one that Biden did, it had a really long name, so I'm not going to attempt to call it by its name, but it killed mining industry in that area. And if we were ever going to mine for rare earth minerals for batteries for these EV cars, that was where we were going to do it. And so now they killed that industry, and now we have to go buy it from China. And so that's another thing they hate about the climate agenda. It's an America last, China first policy. So,
well stated. Is it fair for Trump supporters to ask, my listeners and viewers, is it fair for them to ask if Trump won the election or not back in 2020?
Absolutely, and I believe that he did. I think that there was a lot of fraud involved, and I know the Democrats are going to be like, oh well, the court said this and the court said that. Well, it was very like we're in trouble as far as our judicial system is involved. The Democrats know how to shop around for the right judge and the right prosecutor and everything, and so every time that there was an attempt at an audit, Democrats would try and stonewall it.
Well, I'd also say this: not one case. What did it ever actually go to trial? It was always shut down due to standing. They said whomever brought it didn't have standing. It never once actually was able to go to court and have a true. We weren't truly able to see it through the court process. Yeah. It was just shut down. Thoughts on immigration?
Do it legally. I like what's going on at our southern border is absolutely a nightmare, especially with all of these criminals coming across. Like, if you're a concealed carry holder, make sure you're carrying, because it's getting kind of bad, and we need those people that are willing to stand up for others. But yeah, I like, and me and Blake Moore have a similar stance on this as far as immigration goes. That the Secure Our Border Act of 2023 was good legislation passed by the House. We want remain in Mexico, finish the border wall, and end catch and release as far as criminals go, and kick them out. Like, no, we don't need criminals here. If you're going to do that crap, no, we'll send them back.
All right. So we're mostly done. We're winding it down. We're hitting question number 18 right now. What are your thoughts on the Second Amendment, and what does the Second Amendment mean? And I'm also going to throw in your thoughts on red flag laws.
Ooh, red flag laws I hate. I hate red flag laws because there's no due process with them. And as far as the Second Amendment goes, I wish I was an absolutist, where you go back to the original design of the Second Amendment. If the government has it, you can have it. Shall not be infringed means it must not be infringed, and so, like, that means you can't do anything with it, and so, like, I wish I was like that, but I think that it's in a pretty good spot right now. I disagree with a lot of the things that the ATF does, especially as far as pistol brace bans, and the Supreme Court had the bump stock reversal. That was a good a win for the Second Amendment, and so. But yeah, I by no means am I for assault weapons bans or anything like that. I think you should be able to get fully automatic weapons, with approval, and so, yeah.
All right. So real quickly, I do want to mention for those that are watching, we're just about done with my questions. I will give the audience a short opportunity if they should call in here in the next few minutes. They can call in to 385-899-2134. That's 385-899-2134. And they can ask Paul Miller, running for U.S. House District 1. And right now we're showing on the screen, we're showing his website, and we'll have Paul give that out here shortly. We've got just a few more questions to wrap up. What are your question 19? How often are you willing to meet with the public?
So I don't know how.
And let me rephrase that. Should you win office, how often would you be willing to meet with the public?
Yeah, meat is so that's the thing. I would say, well, I don't fully know what the typical member of Congress does, or what their schedule looks like. So this is all based on how I understand it currently. And how I understand it is that, they fly out to Washington, D.C. on Sunday night, and then they fly back on Thursday night, and Friday is when they meet with constituents. And so it would be a weekly thing, or if it's a town hall, then it could be, monthly or quarterly. It all depends on how expensive it gets, and because congressmen get an allowance, and it's only so much, so you got to make it last the year or the 2 years that you have it. So
Okay, that's good. That's fair enough for me. So everyone, real quickly, Paul Miller's website is pm4utah.com. That's pm4utah.com. So Paul Miller for utah.com.
Yeah, FOR. Yeah.
And that's correct, FOR. All right. Now I'm going to ask you along those lines. Would you be willing to come on talk with Jon about once a quarter?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we are 4 minutes away from 6 o'clock. I want to give you. When we're done with all these questions, I'll give you an opportunity. And should you need to get going here soon, just give me the finger and say, hey, point your finger up and say, hey, I need to get going. And we understand. Thoughts? We've talked a little bit. We've talked about the debt. What are your thoughts on the economy?
So that's the thing. The Trump tax cuts were awesome for the economy. Working in the construction industry, construction just blew up. And so and everybody was getting bonuses at Christmas time, like they were getting record amounts of bonuses. So that's the thing, like all of these companies were investing in their own companies and in their employees. And so it was awesome. And it was reported that they actually profited more revenue into the tax system from it. And so, because it increased spending in the economy. And that's what I'm a fan of, the lower taxes. But what are you are you looking for anything in particular as far as the economy goes?
I just want your thoughts overall on the economy, and it could be, for me, that's a very specific thing. Taxes, it could be taxes. If there's some, if you have specific thoughts or specific issues that involve, Ma and Pa's pocketbook, that might even be considered it. But
so I could touch on, the ESG factor, right? So all of these ESG scorecards that they're pushing, like ESG is just another tax or another burden on businesses, and it really affects small businesses, and so that's really bad. And then you can get into the energy sector, right, in the energy industry, and how Joe Biden's crippling the energy industry, and the fact that the higher that gas prices are, is the more goods are inflated or are more expensive, and so it just affects everything. And that's why we need good energy policy that unleashes our energy sector, because it's really foolish that the Democrats want to cripple our energy sector, because then we have to go and buy more oil from Venezuela or Saudi Arabia or wherever, and then they're emitting all of this CO2 with these oceanic tankers coming across the ocean, and it just releases more CO2 in the air. So it's like, are we trying to get less CO2 or more CO2? Because if you have the XL pipeline, which Trump was doing, and then Biden now shuts it down, which that pipeline would have taken, hundreds of thousands of semi trucks off the road transporting that crude oil, like it would have been better for our atmosphere. So what are the Democrats really doing? And that's why, I firmly believe that the climate agenda is really about control. And so, but anyways, yeah, we're talking about the economy. So sorry, I got sidetracked.
Hey, unfortunately, the green agenda is affecting the economy. So I don't think you were actually sidetracked in any way, shape, or form. I was tracking.
Yeah.
Okay, so thoughts on jury nullification. Do you have any thoughts on jury nullification?
What is that in regards to? Sorry.
Allowing a jury to say, so the federal government has come out and said over the years that, hey, the judge decides whether a law is legal. A juror can't decide that. Any thoughts there?
Okay. So the judge bypasses the jury, which shouldn't be how it is.
So in the Constitution, one of the things that we were allowed to do at the beginning was we got to decide, is this law constitutional and should it be applied to this individual along with their guilt? So that was that's kind of what jury nullification is.
Yeah, and
get going.
Yeah, I would have to look into this issue more. I don't know enough about it, but it's like our judicial system is kind of threatened right now. So we need to have a little protection.
I've got two more questions. Do you have time to do those last two questions? Okay.
Yeah, my kids haven't come out yet, so I'm okay.
Okay. Thoughts on legislative nullification. So that can be a state nullifying law, or the legislator nullifying laws when it comes to a governor. It also could be a legislature saying we don't agree with the laws from the federal government, and it also could be, should you win an election for District 1, the legislation can nullify executive acts, the executive acts of presidents and also their edicts from on high, as it were. So any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, we have to entertain the process. There's a process that's thoroughly laid out, especially when it comes to laws. And so Congress can't bypass an executive order without the president's approval. So if the president, the president has to sign the law anyways. So it's either going to solidify his executive order, or he could even write an executive order that would rescind a previous executive order, which would nullify it. And so, but yeah, there has to be like a healthy system, and we have to revert to our roots in federalism, where the states should have innumerable power, and the federal government has limited power. And so where the state's legislation is enforceable, or the federal government's, I would lean more towards the states, because the federal government has way too much overreach right now. And it's just very, very concerning.
Okay, my last question was state nullification, and you kind of answered that on some level already, just there at the very end. But one of the thoughts can be the state can, the state of Utah, in my opinion, one of the things that should have done years and years ago is say, listen, there's no place in the Constitution where it says abortion. That's going to be a decision here. Or when the federal government, the president says, I want to do some park name a area a park or something along those lines. The state says, guess what? You're in the state of Utah. You're making a decision on our state land, and we're not going to listen. And by the way, we'll have sheriffs enforce our laws. And if the federal government shows up, see you later. And it could even come down to immigration. The immigration department wants to send a bus in to the state of Utah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the state could tell them to go pack sand. Yeah, which is what Texas is doing right now. And which they need. So in California don't also have that stance. But we need to get the decisions on the most local level possible. And where it affects multiple counties, then it's probably a state issue. Where it affects multiple states, it might be a state or a federal issue, so we need it to be the most organic, the most local level as far as legislation goes. But yeah, the lines get a little blurry, but we need to keep it at least to the states.
Well, Paul, I want to say thank you for answering my 23 questions. Thank you for joining us today here on Talk with Jon. Thank you for joining us here on Main Street Media Utah. Now, folks, you can go to KMMU.org. You can go to mainstreetmediautah.org. You can go to view this or to learn more and see some of our other shows. You can also go to Rumble, you can go to X, and you can go to YouTube. Now, Paul, before you're done, the last thing I want to share with you is, or ask of you, if someone wants to support you, how in the world can they go about supporting you? What's the best way that they can do that?
Well, right now, I would say, since we're so close to the election, a lot of marketing right now takes a little bit of time to get going, and I'm about to go on vacation. So right now, the best thing that people can do is just talk with your neighbors. Tell them about my campaign. Tell them about me, and why we need change in our first congressional district. That's the most important thing. Word of mouth advertising is the most effective, so that's what we need. And yeah, send them to my website. There's a lot of information on there. There's reasons why I'm against Blake, my receipts of him being paid for his vote, and his the Boyer Company revenue is on there. But yeah, I would say word of mouth can do right now.
Will you real quickly give us your website address so people can hear it? Also, I know there's the donation page that probably could be helpful as well.
Yeah. And so it's PM for Utah. So PMFORUTAH.com. And it'll look just like how Jon has it there.
All right. Last thing, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you would like to mention?
No, I was able to get everything out. You hit the subjects very well.
Okay. Paul, I'm going to ask again, should you win, I'm going to ask you that you come back to us here on Main Street Media Utah on Talk with Jon, and you join us about once a quarter.
Okay.
I'm going to wish you all of the best and great success in your campaign. So thank you so much for joining us today. Take care and enjoy your vacation. And we hope that we get the opportunity for Utah to vote for you in November.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. All right, folks. That was Paul Miller running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District. So that wraps it up for us pretty much. Great interviews today. Chad Saunders, big thank you to him. Big thank you to Paul Miller for joining me here today. And we want to say thank you for him taking his time away from his family. And I want to say thank you, as always, to Dwayne Benson, thank you so much for riding along shotgun with me, being a producer and call screener. So, well, you didn't get to practice your call screening today. But
well, we didn't have any calls, but we're going to be working on that, John. We're gonna stir things up and get people calling in. All right.
Well, we want to say thank you for joining us here today. God bless you. God bless America, and God bless Utah. We will all see you next. Well, I won't see you next week. I'm going to be taking a day off myself.